Three, two, one. Y'all now live. Peace, love. What's good with y'all? How y'all feeling today?
Welcome to a special episode of NR International. This is Mr. Make It Rain, Nawll Rainey, and
Flawless Flaw. Peace, love.
we are in the building today with a man who I salute in many ways for having the courage to do and embark upon missions in which many people within this day and age obviously are either too cowardly to do, to speak about things in which people of this particular time period may not have the heart to. And he actually goes out and encourages and teaches people about the things in which they need to know to correct our generation. This particular generation is in need of help. And
Seriously?
the person who I'm referring to is our esteemed guest, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Peace and black power. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, family.
Peace, love, and blessings. Most definitely. It's an honor to have you in the building, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
We also have my brother Kawi in the building.
Thank you,
And definitely salute to everyone who's here on the check-in, everyone who's tuned in from Philadelphia, New York, LA, North Carolina, Texas, and Seoul,
All over the world.
all over the world.
We appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Buenos días a todos los hispanos. Bom dia a todos los portugueses. مساء الخير لكل عربي. And everyone else, salute. This is NR International. It's global, never local, and only international counts.
Most authentic on the airwaves.
Most authentic on the airwaves. Now, I definitely would like to say, Dr. Umar,
Yes, sir.
many people, right? Many people of this day and age, they speak about blackness and they speak about trying to do for self and trying to put situations together that's going to affect and help our people.
Yes, sir.
But somewhere along the lines, though, it's like there's a disconnect where it's like we can only get but a certain percentage of people to actually wake up and say, I have to change something. Like, I have children. I'm taking them to these schools. I'm taking them to public schools, or I'm buying into private schools, which based off of, the Catholics had that on lock for a long time. Then following up with those, the Jewish schools, which no one other than Jews can enter into. The Islamic schools began to open. And today we're trying to have a school that is based off of blackness.
Yes, sir.
And you find so much opposition to that. Why do you think that is?
Well, number one, I think the general opposition is due to the fact that if we are successful with this school, building it independently, it will automatically shine a light on a lot of brothers and sisters within the black conscious movement and the community as a whole. And that light will say that if he can do it, why can't you guys? If I'm able to succeed, then you automatically start looking at your athletes and entertainers. And you say, well, if he can do it, why can't you guys do it? So I think some people have a vested interest in seeing us fail so that they're not held more accountable. It only takes one person to break through. Now, this isn't the first, independent school that we've had in the country, but it will be the first of its kind. And because of who I am and what the school will stand for, it's never been seen before. It's never been done this particular way.
About it, and there's no puppet master behind it.
Yes, sir.
I had a conversation with a brother maybe a few months ago, and he was into doing the exact same thing. And when it was asked within that conversation of, well, why is it that y'all do it on an independent note? The topic that came up was that anything in which the government puts their hands into, they feel as though they can control.
Absolutely.
And they can put it into.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And it's like, if we recognize, for all those that's listening, that we are able to change the course of our futures, and we can be able to build for our own communities, and we can be able to make sure and ensure and secure that our children aren't, one, socially engineered, two, that they come up without any type of trauma, right? Which that's the first part that I feel as though we have to shake. We have to shake the fact that most of us have grown up with some type of trauma that unfortunately we pass on, almost like the
genetically.
What was it, the
Indeed,
fish?
we do.
What was the name of the movie with Fisher, the Fisher story, where
Antoine
Fisher, where it's almost as though because hurt people, we come from an environment where most of us have been hurt, and so we don't even realize when we're passing on that type of toxicity to the next generation. We don't realize when we're passing on the negative aspects of what we came up with, and we're passing it down to the next.
And it becomes their norm.
It becomes their norm, and they have to be able to figure that part out.
And this is the dysfunctional cycle. And talking about dysfunctional cycles and the psyche of people, Dr. Umar Johnson, I know you are very, very not only knowledgeable, but you're credible to be speaking on these topics. And due to the work that you've put in, thank you, you've made and shared knowledge that we would not have had about our children, about ourselves. And for those who may have missed that, I just would like for you to briefly talk about certain assumptions or presumptions that we have following the mass that is not.
Okay. What area? Politically, the school system?
More so like school and the cycle part, ADHD and things in which people give us. You realize, like, as children, growing up, trying to learn, when you're told you are something and you're made to believe something for so long, it's damaging, especially when growing up in a society where every time you go outside, you see that you're not wanted. You see that it's a defamation not only to your character, not only to your people, but to your mental state. We're being suppressed in so many ways, whether it's subliminally, whether it's what we see on TV, but we're also made to think and believe certain things about ourselves that is not true, or where the truth has been altered to only have us, even when we do shoot for goals, we can only reach that glass ceiling.
I would start off by saying that I think black people live in an eternal state of denial. And I say that because it doesn't make sense that we ever trusted the United States government to properly educate our children, given our shared experience in this country. What evidence did we have to suggest that they would properly or fairly educate our children? We didn't have any. I always say that white supremacy has been consistent. We're the ones who have been inconsistent. Sometimes we want to be American, sometimes we want to be black, sometimes we want to be both, sometimes we want to fight, sometimes we want to give in, sometimes we want our own reality, sometimes we want to share reality with the Europeans. We have not yet made up our minds as to what exactly we want to do here. 400 years and we're still not clear on where we want to go, who we want to be, and what we want to do. So bringing that into the school system. The purpose of public education for black children is to teach them how to be supporters of the very same system that is exterminating them. The purpose of school is to teach the black child to accept white supremacy as a divine assignment. So I always say that your child may not know how to read, but they know white people are in control. They might don't know how to count, but they know who George Washington was, who Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln. You understand? They are taught to worship American culture, and by doing so, to worship the white man and the white woman. If public school does nothing else, it turns the black child into a Negro. It makes the free black mind an encaged black mind. And after 12 years of that, once again, black people spend the rest of their child's life trying to bring them back to consciousness after you've allowed white people 13 years to indoctrinate and to train and to hypnotize, because public education is a mass hypnotism. It is a mass hypnotism. You are not under the influence of truth. You're not even under the influence of information, because you're not learning anything. You're under the influence of the mysticism of white supremacy. And some of us will never wake up from that slumber until the day that we die. Now, specifically going in, you look at the school to prison pipeline. Right. And with that, America has created 6 stages of destruction for black males. Mm-hmm. Stage number 1 is deliberate miseducation. And it's important that we understand that it's deliberate, because growing up here in North Philadelphia, my first school was Duckery Elementary at 16th and Diamond. Mm-hmm. I graduated from Meade Elementary at 18th and Oxford. And then middle school was at Beaver Junior High, 59th and Malvern out in West Philly, Winfield. The school district of Philadelphia, as an example, would have you think that the children are not learning because the fathers are locked up, the mothers are on welfare, because the teachers are underpaid, and because the school district is underfinanced. That has nothing to do with it. The schools don't work because it is a contradiction of white supremacy to teach black boys how to compete fairly with white boys. Under white supremacy, the white male must be privileged. The white female must be privileged. So if they're going to be privileged, you must intentionally disadvantage the black child in order for the white child to succeed. This is one of the reasons why standardized testing is so important in America, because the tests that they give our children are designed to produce a false negative for black children and a false positive for whites. In other words, there's a built-in 15-point test score difference, whether you're dealing with the IQ test, whether you're dealing with the PSSA, whether you're dealing with the graduation test, whether you're dealing with any test they give us. Because the tests are standardized on white children, the standardization method dictates that 50% of most white kids will pass it. We need to understand this, because we keep hearing these conversations about test scores and why can't black kids catch up? Because you designed the test to make sure they don't. Now, that's a general statement. Some people would say, prove that. How can you tell me that they are able to manipulate the test? Well, let's look at what standardization is. Standardization is the process of making a test normal and relevant to the children you're going to give it to, right? So if we want to create a standardized test for Philadelphia, we're going to take white kids, black kids, Chinese, Latino, Mexican. We're going to take rich. We're going to take poor. We're going to take kids with one parent, kids with 2 parents, kids who dropped out, kids who completed, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to test the test before we give out the official test. Every test was already tested. Mm-hmm. Let me say that one more time. Every test your child takes was already given to them before. Maybe not to your child, but to another child, your child's age, your child's grade, from their socioeconomic status. So they already know how the black kids are going to do. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we're about to get ready for the PSSA in Philadelphia and across Pennsylvania. Parents are getting their kids ready. They don't know that every item on that test was already tested. They already know how the black kids are going to do. They already know how the white kids are going to do. And based on how we do, that's how they put the final questions into the final test. So if I want white kids to pass, what am I going to do? I'm going to look at the items where white kids did well, black kids struggle. You see that?
Exactly.
You can re-engineer the test where the black kids do better than the white kids. Just find the items where the black kids do better and the white kids do less well. So here's the question. If there was ever a test where the black children outperform the white children, what do you think happens to that test? It gets destroyed. You will never see it again because it contradicts the core belief of white supremacy, and that is that their children are better than ours. Sometimes I'll get questions from parents. Can you recommend a IQ test that is not culturally biased? Can you recommend an achievement battery assessment that is not culturally biased? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because every test in America is culturally biased by design. So I'm bringing it up to let you know that nothing in the world of education is left to chance. It's not like the NBA finals, which some people could argue is rigged too, right? But we know for a fact testing is rigged, you see. And in keeping with that, so you have deliberate miseducation to make sure the white boy stays privileged. Then you have special ed. Now, special ed is when you go in another level. You say, listen, if we can't break the black boy's spirit just by having a white teacher in the classroom, we're going to test him and label him with something he don't have and that we can't even prove exists. You can't prove a reading disability. You can't prove ADHD. You can't prove conduct disorder. You can't prove an emotional disturbance. You can't prove a mild intellectual disability. And most of our children, these are the 5 labels that they use. You see, you can't prove it. But guess what? We believe it can be proven. And so just by the white psychologist testing your children, and in Philadelphia, most of the school psychologists are white, I know, because I used to be one of them. Just by using those tests, they can convince and convict a black parent to believe that your son can't learn without this program. They never tell you that this program is a fast track to the school to prison pipeline. They never tell you by putting him in special ed, he's more likely to drop out of school. They never tell you that the gap between him and other children can get wider over time. They never tell you that. So then after that, then they go to medication. So now we talking ADHD conduct disorder, which is going to get you a Ritalin prescription, Adderall, Concerta, Metadate, Vyvanse. Now you're taking the same drugs that locked your father up. So let me get this straight. My father's doing 20 years for selling crack because y'all say it's bad. And it is. But you're going to take that same crack that daddy sold, call it Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, and you're going to give me 10 milligrams of that every day so I can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus, Ann Keller, Anne Frank, and Helen Keller. You see the contradiction. If drugs are too bad to be sold, they must definitely be too bad to be given to children. And so we're witnessing a mass crack epidemic that's being pushed through the school district with black parents' complicity and with the authority of the white supremacy power structure. The drugging of black boys for education is one of the greatest contradictions of American drug policy.
Doc, can I'm sorry to cut you off.
Nah, you good, bro.
You was going in, and first I want to say thank you for being here. I learned a lot from you, whether you know it or not, because you don't even know me. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to speak on the ADD, ADHD thing. My son's 4 years old. He's not diagnosed with anything like that, but I go to his class, the teacher told me he acting up. I tell him, you know, this is what it's going to be. I tell his teacher, I'm not going to allow you to diagnose my son with ADD, ADHD, none of that. My son does go to a private school. It is in a predominantly white neighborhood.
Okay.
But I do that on purpose, not to say that white people get better education, but to say that I would not allow my son to go to a public school in Philadelphia where they close down 24 schools and build a new juvenile jail. I won't allow my son to do that. But I say that to say, you already see, like, my son's 4, he'll be going to kindergarten at 4. I will not allow him to make my son wait till 6 to go to kindergarten. That's not an option. Because we all know as black men, as black people, that you try twice as hard as everybody else to get where you at.
Absolutely. So
you can't put my son a year back because of his birthday. Not going to be an option. That's another reason why he goes to private school, so he can start kindergarten early. But everything you're speaking on, I work in psych. I'm going to say that I work in psych. I work with adolescents. I work in drug and alcohol. I work in the corrections as a nurse. I'm a nurse. I work in corrections as a nurse. So everything you're talking about, I've seen that. I worked in the juvenile justice center right after it got built, not the old one, the new one. So I've seen that. I just want to say that I don't even, like, I'm real excited right now, so I don't want to get into it. But everything you saying, I've seen it. I have a kid. I work with kids currently. I work in drug and alcohol. I work in psych. So I definitely, everything you're saying is 100. Like, you know,
I'll tell you this in response to that. So the work I do is to try to get the children out of special ed, to educate the parents to not put them in the first place. Because this is where we get caught. They can't make you put your child in, but they can force you to keep them in. They can't make you put them on medicine, they can force you to keep them on the medicine. Prevention is the best intervention. Once you're in, they got you. See, if they tell you your son can't sit still, he's too hyper to learn, right? They can't force the medicine until you get him tested. Now, once he gets the ADHD classification, that's all they need. Now they on the phone downtown, Child Protective Services, DHS, and now DHS is coming to you and your wife threatening to take all the children away from you because you have a child with a health problem that you don't want to medicate. Now, let me say this. One thing I don't like about the world of mental health, it's treated the equivalent of physical health. So, for example, if you got cancer, we can prove you got cancer. There's an x-ray, there's an ultrasound, there's pictures. You know cancer. You know diabetes. You know kidney failure. You know heart disease. You can objectively prove them, right? You can't objectively prove a learning disability. There's no test, no CAT scan, no MRI, no urine sample. You can't prove it. But because psychology is a branch of medicine, they treat it the equivalent of physical health. So even though you can't see a learning disability, you can't touch it, can't measure it, they will treat it like it's diabetes, like it's cancer. So when they come to your house, you can't say, well, y'all can't even prove this thing exists. Show me where the learning disability is. Can I see it? You can't. It's a theoretical disability. It's not organic, it's theoretical. But guess what? Because it carries the same swag as cancer, they can take your kids from you because you're not giving them medicine that they need to succeed. Look at that. Look at that.
But that goes back. I don't even know if you remember you said this. I remember I was watching you talk and you said they diagnose your kids with ADD, ADHD, all of that ain't got no daddy at home syndrome. Absolutely. Right? So that goes back to that. So it's even if your kid don't got no daddy at home, which like you said, that's what we're gonna call it, right? They diagnose your kid because your kid won't sit still. They don't have no structure at home, right? So when you start going to school and picking your kid up and the teacher say, man, your kid was in class hitting people, throwing stuff at people, not listening, running around, can't sit still, can't repeat back the lessons that I taught them, you got to be harder on your kid.
Yes. Because harder on the teacher.
Harder on the teacher as well. You got to be harder on the teacher, but you have to, my son's teacher is black, I'm going to say that. My son's teacher is black, older lady, nice woman, but anyway. You have to be hard on the kid, but specifically for that specific situation, you have to show the kid that the teacher is the authoritative figure in that classroom at that moment.
Yes.
You understand? I'm just going on based on what I do.
Yes, I agree.
You have to show the kid that teacher is the authoritative figure. So when you go to school and pick that kid up, you can't say, yo, don't talk to my kid like that. Don't my kid do what we want, because a lot of us have that attitude. No. You walk in the classroom and teacher say, look, such and such was in here doing this, running around, won't sit down, whatever, throwing stuff, hitting people. Come here, let me talk to you for a second. You see this? Miss such and such? You follow what she said. You don't be a follower, you be a leader, but you listen to what she say. Whatever she say, you do. You be a listener. You do that, you get to the teacher. Look, if you're a good parent, you work with your kid at home. So you know what it takes for that child to listen, for that child to learn, for that child to want to interact. So you go to the teacher, look, my son, he don't do that like that. That's not how that works.
Right.
This works for him.
I agree. I'm going to add one small caveat.
Go ahead.
One of the problems with black boys and white teachers is there's no social justice protocol in this public school. If your son is being mistreated by his teacher, there is no process he can follow to get justice. If she's calling him out his name, if she's being unfair to him, if she's labeling him out, if she's criminalizing him, the problem is the black boy is forced to carry this pain of injustice with him. Right. You can't take the teacher to court. Right. You see, and so that is what mushrooms into this conduct disorder, which I call Caucasian disorder. That's really what it is because you're not allowing me to express myself and say how I feel about the way you're treating me. So the teacher serves as judge, jury, and executioner. You see, so the classroom in many respects can resemble a prison in structure and in process. I totally agree with you. But your son has a good teacher. You follow what I'm saying? Who is black. You follow? But when you're dealing with the notorious Neanderthals that run these classrooms with the iron fist, many of these teachers carry themselves like police officers, not teachers, and definitely not caregivers. There are very few teachers I've seen in a school that I can say this is a caregiver. You follow me? They walk around like probation officers. To that end, if we want to fix education for black boys, the simplest, easiest, most convenient thing to do is to give them strong black male teachers. See, schools are run by women and they operate on feminine energy. 95% of all teachers are females, right? And then white female.
So the black boy is discriminated against twice, because first he's a boy in a female-dominated institution, but then he's black in a white-dominated institution. You see, so you're looking at gender times racism. So he gets it both, right? So if you want to fix that, just start hiring black men and putting them in charge, because women expect boys to act like girls in the classroom. Running is normal for a alpha male child. Talking, goofing off is normal for a alpha male child. But the school is designed for the female child, and the only boy who can really be successful is the beta male boy. And that's the boy who can sit there and be complacent. But for most of our sons who have an alpha energy, the white female is going to be a problem for him. And because he won't act like a little white girl, now he gets called ADHD.
I want to put just a moment in the schooling and to speak to the parents. Most parents are under the impression that they are doing their child a justice, a service, by putting him into this private school. And being someone who has went to better in schools, you know, because my mother struggled to make it happen for me, and what I experienced in them. You know, I was that little boy that you mentioned that could not express the injustices that I was being faced with on a day-to-day basis. Even to where as though I had teachers, you know, speaking nasty to me. Oh, what kind of book bag that is? That's not fake. Your mom got it on discount. Like nasty on a day-to-day basis. And you being a child, taught to respect your elders, trying to find your niche in life. It's so suppressing to one's soul, to one's expression. And I really believe that with a school that you are working on, everybody needs to acknowledge, right? If you want the best for your people, we need to be around our people.
Absolutely.
We cannot say,
Absolutely.
I want the best for my child, so I'm going to send them to an all-white school. You are going to lose your...
Send them to people who have never had the best interests of our people.
Exactly. Like, you're gonna put your child through so much, and your child is going to be unable to open up to you due to the fact that the experiences are different, you know? Ultimately, your child trusts you, right? And you are entrusting people that are taking that trust and damaging it.
Yes.
They're damaging your child.
Yes.
In so many ways. And you're telling your child to trust them. And they deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So whereas though this is what I say when people say this is who you are. You're a bad kid. Oh, you do this. You're a disciplinarian. And you really start to believe these things about you to whereas though you have a F it mentality. Exactly. And you are set in your ways because everybody labels me the outcast anyway, correct?
Yep.
But we need to heal our people. We need to come together. And I really think that part of it is speaking on these experiences, you know, because we've all, young, old, rich or poor, we've had encounters where we've been unjust. We've had racial encounters that has not felt good. And I know all white people love to say, we're always crying about, no, it's not crying. It's the fact that this is a wound. And when you put salt in a wound, it hurts. You understand? Like, we can lean on each other and we understand because we went through similar instances. I always say, you are the strength of the people you have around you. When I cannot be strong, I can lean on this brother. He can be my strength. I can lean on this brother. He can. And as a people, this is how we survive as a nation. This is how we dominate. Melanin is dominant. Listen, just look at genetics. Why do you think they don't want us to unite? The genes say it all.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Because I always get the question, if black people are already on the bottom, why do they have to continue to add injury to insult? If we're already losing, have so little wealth, so little unity, so little control, why the police genocide? Why the continued miseducation? If you're already losing, why kick us even more? And that's for 3 reasons. The first is your genetic advantage. Okay, I'm not going to use the word superiority, so I'll say your genetic advantage. The black woman is the only woman that walks this earth who reproduces herself
irregardless of the man that puts the seed in her. So whether he be Anglo-Saxon, Chinese, Arab, Mexican, that child is African.
Yes.
Same thing with the black man. In fact, when black men were lynched, and they still are occasionally, but when you look at the lynchings during slavery, Jim Crow, post-Reconstruction, 95% of the time they castrated the black male when they lynched him. Now, we were not the only ones to be lynched. They lynched Chinese, they lynched Irish, they lynched Italians, they lynched other Asians that were imported over here to work because they didn't want to hire us, okay? Keeping a black man unemployed has been the modus operandi since the end of slavery. But getting back to the point, they never castrated them. So why was the black man dismembered whenever he was lynched? Because the black man's penis has always been a point of envy for the white male. Unfortunately, many black males misconstrue that to mean that the white man is intimidated by the size of your penis. That's not necessarily true, because not every black man is blessed, you understand. It's not the size of the black man's genitalia that infuriates the white male. It's the genetic power that comes from it. The white male knows that the black man will make a black child if he touches his white sister, his white daughter, his white mother. The only child that comes from a black man is a black child. No other man can say that. We are the only men on the planet, no matter how poor we are, no matter how mass incarcerated we are, no matter how disorganized we are the only black man in the world, the only man in the world who can reproduce himself in any woman he touches. They hate you for that. And that's why they got AIDS and Ebola and West Nile and coronavirus and Shanika virus and anything you can think of. It is about exterminating you. And this is where the bourgeois Negroes get it wrong. And by the way, Philly is the capital of the bourgeois Negro. I don't know if y'all know this, but this is historical truth. The Boule, the black male secret society that serves the white male secret society, was founded in Philly, 1904. W.E.B. Du Bois was a member while he was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. You understand? Philly is the home of the Boule, the original black aristocracy, the original gatekeeper class, the original Negropean was born in Philadelphia. That's why in Philly, we never saw a Trayvon Martin type of riot or a Michael Brown riot or a Freddie Gray. You never got that in Philly, and you never will, because the black community here is thoroughly controlled by its Boule, you see. And so that's why, even though Philadelphia is the only top 10 city where the black population equals the white population, you don't see that reflected in our political and economic power because of the gatekeepers. So if there's any place you want to start to destroy the control that the talented 10th has over the other 90, it's Philadelphia.
The talented 10th.
Now that was a gem that was brand new to me right there. I never knew that.
Look it up. BOULE 1904, Philadelphia, the Black Male Secret Society. And this secret society predates all of the Greek lettered fraternities and sororities because they come from the Boule. The Boule created all the fraternities and all the sororities, which is why up until a certain time, you couldn't join none of the fraternities and sororities if you couldn't pass the brown paper bag test. Every fraternity and sorority was a light-skinned supremacy clique until a certain amount of time.
And that's what was said about the Alpha Kappa Alphas before
all of
the
them.
Kappas started.
Now, some of them stayed with the light-skinned mystique, right? But all of them started with it. If you was chocolate, you wasn't getting in. The first recipient of the NAACP Spring Garn Medal was Ernest Everett Just, founder of Omega Psi Phi.
That's deep right there.
And the power of the secret society and the Negro elite, the power is in the secrecy. You don't know we exist. You don't know we meet. You don't know we plan. You don't know we strategize. It's no different than the upcoming presidential election. Who you going to vote for? Bloomberg, Trump, Biden. It doesn't matter. Because what you fail to realize is many of them are Grandmaster Masons. You fail to realize that they're all members of the Bilderberg. You fail to realize that they're all members of the Council on Foreign Relations. When George W. Bush took on John Kerry, they were both skull and bones. The decision was made before the election even took place. They're playing games with us. There's no democracy. There's only a false-stocracy.
Right.
Indeed.
Corporocracy at that. Well, look, I need everybody who's listening to this, share on the IG, share on your Facebooks, share these links. Once it reaches YouTube, share. When it gets to all the different platforms, make sure you share this, because this is the gems that everyone needs to know. We can't wake people up without knowledge. So this knowledge is being given right here. This is something on which every person needs to listen to, take heed to. And if you don't get it now, then at least sit on it for a while, and you get it later.
Come get this
And let me
soul
also
food.
clarify.
Yes.
Because I don't want our black Greek letter fraternities to say Dr. Umar is anti, right?
Okay.
That's not the case. You can understand the history of something and still recognize how some people can still try to use it as an instrument for good. Right. For example, Dr. King was a member of the Boule. You understand? But Dr. King didn't let the Boule keep him back from doing what he needed to do. Okay. You see, same thing with charter schools. Charter schools were not started to help black kids. Philadelphia has more charter schools than any city in America, right? And there are some very good black-run charter schools in Philly. So you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but you cannot withhold the truth because it will upset some people who are involved in that mission. So when I talk about charter schools, I know some black educators in Philly who are probably watching me. They get upset. Stop talking down about the charter schools. We're giving our kids a better chance. Your school is giving our children a better chance. But as a movement, charter schools were created to defund and destroy public education. That's not a knock on the good black charters, but you still need to understand the mission behind the charter school.
What was the original intention?
Original intent.
But talking about schools, right? I would like to know more about
Sure.
his school and
Okay.
how we can help you.
Thank you. With the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, which is in Wilmington, Delaware, we have 4 buildings, which includes 2 schools. Right now, we're trying to get the small renovated. That's the Honorable across the street, and we're going to need more money before we can get that one done, even though that is the one I can't wait to get done because it has everything we need in it. So we're trying to get the Garvey building renovated by the start of summer, because this August is the 100-year anniversary of the Honorable Marcus Garvey's red, black, and green flag. It turns 100 years, and I would love to do nothing more than honor that flag at the grand opening of the school with a good community day of food and fun and picnics and speakers and seminars and music at the campus. So that's what we're pushing to right now. So anyone who wants to donate to that, they can get on the Cash App and donate at $FDMG School. I repeat, $FDMG School. If you want to mail in a check or money order, you can make that payable to the FDMG Academy and send that to P.O. Box 9634. I repeat, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. That's how you can donate. And we get plenty of donations. It's just that the amounts are low, and that's what makes it sometimes a little troublesome to get to the goal that we're trying to reach. But we get them every day, hundreds of them from all over the world. In fact, I think that this school might be the first school ever purchased in American history, and I have to do the research, but I think we might be the first school ever purchased in American history where black people from every continent contributed to the purchase. We've received money. We've gotten money from almost every African country. We've gotten money from almost every Caribbean island. We've gotten money from every United State. We've gotten money from Europe, France, Paris. We've gotten money from Canada. Did we get any donation from Australia? I need to check the books, but I think we got donations from Australia as well. So there's no black community in the world that did not play a hand in purchasing this school. And I want to keep that going. So when we open the school, I want our teaching staff to be so diverse that we have a teacher there that represents every continent. And in the long run, I want to have a teacher there representing every country that black people come from. Yes. So your son can say, my math teacher is from Ghana, my English teacher is from Jamaica, my science teacher is from Canada, my African language teacher is from South Africa, my gym teacher is from North Philly. You understand? So because it's important that we reach out and understand other African countries and other African cultures and other African lifestyles, because sometimes we fall into the stereotype that's perpetuated by gangster rap music that represents black men and black women in a particular light, and I don't like it, because unfortunately I think we as black people will also make history as being the only race in the world who participated in the destruction of their own public image. When the European Jews were being targeted by Adolf Hitler, you didn't see them making music, you understand, to actually push the stereotype.
that Hitler made about them. You didn't see them making movies to push the stereotype that Hitler made about us. But when I look at our gangster rappers and I look at our television film producers, I see nothing but the stereotypes white people created being put on steroids by us.
Coonery.
Coonery.
Yeah, indeed.
You can't continue to perpetuate ignorance.
Oh my goodness.
When you already know that there's certain things that's been placed upon us as a people, and this is a stereotype in which they say, I've always been told that I gotta go against what they say. So if it's the case in which they say, oh, well, black people sleep too much, then, I mean, I only get about 4 or 5 hours of sleep since the time I I was a child. If they say that only thing that we know how to do is
basketball, football,
play sports. No, I did all sports, but at the same time, I had to push myself to know over 5 different languages.
Absolutely.
And to, become a master of whatever it is that I decided to get myself involved in. And I'm saying that to say every person who considers themselves of this black diaspora, of this black culture, this black race, have to be able to say that all the ignorance that people end up placing upon us to say that this is who you are, we got to prove them wrong.
We got to prove them wrong. and more importantly, we don't have to prove them wrong for their benefit. We have to prove them wrong for our benefit.
Correct.
One thing black people have to stop doing, I see too much of this, especially within the conscious community, black conscious movement. When we learn something or unlearn something, we want to run out and convince white people to believe what we know to be true. Why would a white person accept the reality that Jesus Christ is black? How does that benefit white folks? How does that push their worldview? How does that perpetuate their agenda? It doesn't. We are supposed to be internalizing the truth of ourselves, not trying to convince your enemy of that truth. And the reason black people spend so much time trying to convince white people, of our reality and our greatness is because we're still trying to be accepted by white folks. See, if I don't need your approval, I don't care what you think about me. You understand? It absolutely does not matter to me. But if I'm going out of my way to try to convince you that I'm not a half monkey, you understand, and that my brain works as well as yours, and I can do more than play football and basketball, if I'm trying to convince you, then that is actually putting you in a superior position to me, because it says I need that person's approval before I can continue to move forward. We have to get out of that and become unapologetically African, where we be who we want to be, where we be, because we are who we are.
No doubt. So that brings up this question, right? What exactly, because a lot of people even within the conscious community, they get this wrong. And I'm not going to say they get it wrong for my sake, but I'm saying they get it wrong in regards to the totality of the answer of this question. What is the true definition of blackness?
I would use Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad's definition. And of course, we remember him the day before yesterday, February 17th, or 3 days ago, was the day that he died. 2001, founder of the New Black Panther Party. And Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad said that blackness was color, consciousness, culture, and a connection to the great divine creator. And that's how I look at it. See, when black people say, people say that it's just color that makes us different. Other than that, we're all the same. We got it so wrong. This color is a chemical. Melanin is a chemical. It is an energy. And that energy directly connects us to carbon, universal energy, and to God. So when people talk about who are the chosen people, right? Is it the Hebrews? Is it the Muslims? Is it the Christians? It's none of them. Being chosen has nothing to do with the religion you profess. Being chosen has to do with the order in which God created you. As the Bible says, blessed be the firstborn child. The African man and woman are the firstborn child of the Creator. We are the only people on earth whose DNA comes directly from God, because God had to make us first before we can make everyone else. We are the chosen people. It has nothing to do with a religion. Africans are the chosen ones.
The original people.
The original people.
Yes.
So that brings me to the next question, which is, and I get this from being on the live the other day, where it was a lot of people who I noticed that even though while professing that we stand with black unity, based off of the nationality or perhaps the language that some of us use or was raised to use, I saw a division.
Okay.
And I'm referring specifically to the separation between those who call themselves Latinos and those who call themselves Africans.
Okay. Okay.
Can you tell me what's your position on that? Only because you know I come from a Dominican Haitian background where even growing up when I was in school, you know, I would be the one that they call on and say, well, say the numbers in Spanish or say this, and I would have to help the teacher as we went along. But no matter what island my father comes from, I'm 100% black, and if the Hispaniolan island doesn't, you know, stamp that as far as being the first black republic twice, I don't know what does.
Right. In order to understand that confusion, you have to understand the way in which racism operated in the islands versus America. In America, it was very simple. You were either black or you were white, right?
Facts.
Now, they would refer to those of us who were of mixed race as mulatto, but you were still amongst the blacks. You follow? So it was not a separate political distinction. It was a social distinction only. You see? So in America, whether you light or dark or wavy hair, nappy hair, you black. In the Caribbean, it's different. In the Caribbean, they had mulatto, octoroon, quadroon. They had about 8 different racial categories. So literally, you and her could be a shade apart.
Right.
And that difference in that shade would determine whether you could work in a government office or she could not. It would determine whether you could go to the university or she could not. It would determine whether you could live in this particular housing area or she could not. So in the Caribbean islands, skin color became extremely important as a form of consciousness because your shade dictated how far you could go in life. And in many islands, it still does. So when we look at the Afro-Latino or the Afro-Cuban or the Afro-Dominican, and for many of them, a tendency to disidentify from being African, that has a strong historical legacy. Because what in essence they're saying is, I might know I'm black. Because after all, my religion is Santeria. That come from Africa. My drums come from Africa. My music come from, how the hell I'm not African, but everything I do, including my food, is African. You see. But to claim that doesn't give me no advantage. So I'm going to claim Latino, which is not a race, it's a culture. I'm going to claim being Puerto Rican, which is a nationality. And by the way, nothing wrong with claiming Latino or Puerto Rican. Because that's a nationality in a race, in a culture. But what is your race? Your race is African. But when you live in a reality where skin color dictates opportunity, you see, I want to be as far away from blackness as possible because after all, isn't that a badge of shame? And is that not why we suffer in the first place? So a lot of light-skinned Africans in the islands would rather ignore their Africanity and flat out deny it so they get opportunities. So let's look at the flip side of that. That means what? The minute we get ourselves together and we get our economic and political situation in order, the same people who claim they're not African will be fighting to be African again. The problem is we are losing and nobody wants to be part of a losing team. Imagine if you want to go play football, right? Do you find a team with the 0-12 record or you try to join the team with the 12-0? I want to be with the winners. I don't be with the losers. And right now we are losing as a people. So anybody who can get away with acting like they're not black is going to do it, including African Americans who have a history of passing for white when they look light enough, you see. But the minute we give our people something to be proud of, the Puerto Ricans will run back to being African. The Dominicans will run back to being African. You can't expect people to be loyal to the community while the community is down on one knee. We have to stand first.
And
Talking about
what I remember is it was only in 1973 that the Census Bureau placed Latinos or Hispanic as even being
the government invented the word Hispanic.
Right.
Because, again, many of the Spanish-speaking Africans from the islands would come to America and claim white, even if they look like us. So the white man said, we got a problem here. This brother, he's an African speaking Spanish talking about he white. So the government said, listen, we know y'all don't want to be black, but you can't be white. So we're going to make you Hispanic.
That's how that came about.
They're still doing that now, especially down there in Miami with them Cubans coming over.
Oh, yes.
Them Cubans in Miami, they white.
Yes.
But I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
you got your Afro-Cubans and you got your white Cubans.
They
yeah.
white. Yeah. They come
and my great-grandfather was Cuban.
They come over, but they don't know if they go a couple miles other way to the Everglades.
Oh, yes.
White. They know the difference in the Everglades.
Oh, yes.
Talking about nationality, though, and race, and especially like the logistics of the government, and in the terms black, a lot of people claim black as a race.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why the disservice when going in front of the court is due, because when we do not fully understand the logistics of the law and the systems and how to properly identify oneself, then we cannot fight for ourselves. When we have no nationality attached to us, no nation backing us, then it allows for the courts to do whatever. Can you speak on that?
Yes. Let me first say that I do appreciate the power of the law and our ability to use it effectively to navigate the legal system. Because the legal system, in my opinion, is the word laws is an acronym, LAWS, for the legal arm of white supremacy. And I think knowing how to navigate can be powerful. And I have a lot of respect for brothers and sisters who study the law diligently as a strategy that can help our overall liberation efforts. But I totally disagree with brothers and sisters who argue that we can use the law to achieve liberation all by itself. Calling yourself black or doing what some of these brothers teach, and that is calling or referring to yourself as a free white person in a court of law, I'm never doing that. I will never refer to myself as a free white person, understanding what my people have done. Here's what I need us to understand. I understand the color of law, but I more readily understand the power of law. And the reason black people are treated the way they're treated in the courts isn't because they call themselves black. It's because there is no power attached to their blackness. Once you attach power to your blackness, you can call yourself whatever you want. See, I am a firm proponent of black people using whatever word they feel they need to use to self-identify. So if you want to be Hebrew, you want to be Moor, you want to be Nawapi, you want to be Nation of Islam, you want to be, God and Earth, whatever you are, I am fine with that, because as the original people, there's no one name that can capture the divinity of who we are. Yeah. It's no different than with God. Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, Yahweh, Amen Ra, Kanum, it don't matter. There's no one name that can describe the creator. It's impossible, because the creator is beyond description. And so is his first people, which is the Africans. Okay. So the issue isn't what you call yourself. The issue is the power that is attached to what you call yourself. Because even if you go in there and say, I'm a free white person, what power is the court going to give you by calling yourself white when everybody in the damn courtroom know you are not a Neanderthal? You follow what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous. And my thing is this: we have to be careful not to use too many get-free-quick schemes, because black folks, because we don't really want to work our way to liberation, we want to march, pray, vote, and be free white people in order to get, you see, none of that's going to give you liberation. If you study any liberation movement from any people, any nation, any time in history, Chinese, whites, Arabs, I don't care who you study, nobody got free with voting. Nobody got free with marching. Nobody got free with praying. And nobody got free by manipulating the legal system. Blood, sweat, and tears. How did you get out of slavery? Blood, sweat, and tears. How you get out of Jim Crow? Blood, sweat, and tears. How you get the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Act? Blood, sweat, and tears. Dr. King had to sacrifice his life. He was a blood sacrifice for your voting right.
First of all, I'm going to say this. I 100% agree with everything you just said, especially when it comes to how we're supposed to get our own. Hard times call for drastic measures.
Yes.
But anyway, why is it that every time we do decide to have an uprising or a protest, why we always mess up our own stuff? I'm only 30 years old. I ain't seen in 30 years not one time, starting with can we all get along? Him. Starting with that situation where we rioted and didn't mess up our own stuff. Nobody made it over to Beverly Hills. Wilmington, Delaware. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington, Delaware historically had, I think, the longest occupation of the National Guard, I think, during the King Rise, right? 9 months, right? Longest occupation we had. wasn't nobody out there in Claymont or whatever it is, Newark, Newcastle, Bear, Middletown, burning nothing. They was on Market Street over North Side burning everything down.
I met one of the elders who was a part of that.
Was they not? You know what I'm saying? So why? I mean, not that you got the answer, but what can you give clarity on what to do? I'm not saying we gotta go burn people's stuff down. I'm not saying I'm a believer in violence, but I'm a believer in self-defense. I ain't gonna never let you do nothing to me at all. But what is it that we can do? Because again, my whole point, what I said was, why don't we mess our own stuff up? We burned down our own buildings, hurt our own people, burned down our own stores, do everything. Even if that store in the corner is owned by a Arab or a Chinese or a Puerto Rican, it's still in our neighborhood. Our kids still get stuff from there, right? In the morning or whatever, you get stuff from that corner store. Why burn down that corner store? It's not gonna get you nowhere.
It's not. Black people are afraid of white people. And that's why when we riot, we keep it in the hood.
Facts.
That's facts.
It's just that simple.
It's just that simple.
Look at Detroit.
We are afraid of white folk. Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. We are the only oppressed people in history who have never had a self-directed military campaign for liberation against their oppressor. Even we fought in the Civil War, but we fought on behalf of the Union against the Confederacy. So we were government troops. We never had a self-directed military campaign against our oppressors for liberation. In fact, we might be the only people in world history who has achieved some sort of a quasi-freedom without any direct bloodshed against the oppressor. That is the one step of our struggle that we have not ever entertained. I'm going to be honest with you, and we're not ready for it now, so I'm not saying we go out here and do anything. You will never, ever get free unless the white man comes to understand that you're willing to die for it. Until he knows black people are so fed up that they will die in order for their children to live, nothing will change. Fear is controlling the Negro, not the law, not money, not education. It is fear of the oppressor that keeps us in check.
And that goes back to that Willie Lynch syndrome.
Absolutely.
As long as every person who feels it within themselves to end up making a difference, they try to make that person an example for the entire community. But see, the thing is that the difference between a person who has that soldier mentality, they recognize that person may have given their lives, but that person is a martyr, forever remembered by the soldiers. Yes,
and one of the reasons why a lot more of us don't have the soldier mentality is because in the aftermath of Dr. King's murder, he was killed in 1968. So this April the 4th will be 52 years since Dr. King. Tomorrow is the 21st. So tomorrow is 55 years since Malcolm was murdered. Tomorrow to the day. Frederick Douglass died today. Malcolm X died tomorrow, right? They stratified oppression. What I mean by that, before integration, all four of us, you're a doctor, I'm a lawyer, she's a painter, he's an engineer, electrician. You make more money than three of us combined, but guess what? You live on the same block with us because you wasn't allowed to live nowhere else. You follow me? Right. Even though W.E.B. Du Bois was the first black with a PhD from Harvard, when he came to Philadelphia to work at UPenn, he had to live in the ghetto. There was no stratification of oppression. After Dr. King, they would stratify the oppression. Now you can go live out in Beverly Hills. You can go live out in Mount Airy. You follow me? You could go live in a gated community somewhere by the Schuylkill River. You follow what I'm saying? So now that you have the stratification of oppression, you got more to lose than me. He got more to lose than me. You got more to, you follow? So when you have black people who all suffer oppression, but who have different things to lose, now you start wondering whether you want to struggle with us, because after all, you got a Benz and we still on Scepter. And that's the problem we got, because we're no much. Because athletes and entertainers, if they were politically conscious and if they had the heart of a lion, they could revolutionize America overnight, because they have the ears of all the youth. Which is one of the reasons why they killed him, Tupac Shakur. Because you got the top selling rapper, a child of the Panther Party, mother was a leader of the New York City Black Panther Party, and he is the #1 selling rapper. If he wanted to, he could start a revolution right now. That's how powerful Tupac was. So they said, we're going to knock him off and we're going to replace him with Negroes who didn't even think about black revolution. You follow what I'm saying? In order to contain the masses, because here's the one thing we got going for us. Our youth are politically uneducated, but they are fearless. Yeah. If you take the fearless black youth in America's streets and you politicize them, you got an army. You see, we need to politicize them, because right now they're killing each other. They're dying for nothing. And that's what hurts. Not that they die,
because youth die in war. But our youth are dying for nothing. I once read something that said it is a blessing to die for a purpose because too many people are dying for nothing. We're losing our best men to the streets for the most frivolous of reasons. They're killing each other because they have not been taught who their real enemy is.
That was trying to start strategize on purpose. That was done with those that they call the bastards of the party, i.e. you had the Black Panther Party, you had all of those other movements, and then once the 70s and the 80s came in, we started knocking each other off.
Yes.
You know, like, and it's like, I think I had this conversation up here with you before, something like this, when I was here, before we talk about, so you had the Black Panther Party, for example, Tupac mom, right? She a Black Panther, his auntie a Black Panther, they got them. They lock all of them up, kill all of them, put all of them on drugs. So then you got their kids come along, right? Exactly. Their kids come along with no guidance. Now they was taught to fight. They was growing up their whole life taught to fight, but now they don't know who they fighting.
Right.
So now they fighting themselves. We fighting each other. So then the 80s and the 90s come in, and then the crack era come in. So now we fighting over money because anybody had money before. So now we fighting over money. We making $5 grand a day, hand over fist, off of each other. Then they go from that to now they got kids. But now ain't nobody making no money, so everybody go back to being poor again on a different level. But now all of their dads, uncles, and brothers is in jail. So then you got my generation, right? And your generation, late 80s, early 90s is born. So now we coming out, we getting out of jail, we're not going to jail, we getting out of jail, we getting educated. But we hard, but we soft though. Because we wasn't taught to fight for nothing. I don't care if you a street dude or not. You wasn't taught to fight for nothing. You a street dude because you had to, because the environment that you grew up in. But I mean being taught to fight for something like the Black Panthers, like the Civil Rights Movement. So now we're raising our kids, and I give an example, my son. My son probably gonna be soft for real, because you think about it, all my son gonna do is go to school. You know what I'm saying? He gonna go to school. I'm looking at it like he probably got nothing to fight for. We all know there's something to fight for, but in a sense, I mean, in the masses, in the movement, right. I try to teach him to be a strong black man, but at the same time, it's so easy not to teach your kids to be that at this day and age in America because of what you just said. I can just get up and move to the suburbs if I feel like it. I can move to a gated community. I can send my son to a private school because I don't have to live in the ghetto. I don't have to send my son to a school where they don't have no books in there or no chairs or nobody's graduating. So my son ain't got to worry about all this other stuff. I don't have to teach him to say, look, you got to be better than them because everybody around you is doing well. So then what's the next generation? When you said that this generation is fearless, I think they're fearless, but I think they're soft though, dog.
I follow what you're saying.
I think they're fearless, but I think they're soft because they quick to jump up and want to fight, but what are they fighting for though? They're not even fighting for the right stuff.
But that's our fault because we did not educate them and we did not guide them. One of the best things white supremacy did to destroy the black community. Now, let me be very clear. I do not support organized crime. I don't support crime. I don't support hustling and racketeering and drug dealing. I don't, right? But if it's going to happen, it needs to be organized. And once upon a time, crime in the black community was organized. When you had your Bumpy Johnsons, okay, you go to Detroit and Chicago, many of the large gangs, right? They were organized. All white crime is organized. The Irish are organized. The Italians are organized. When they started locking up the OGs of the gangs in the 70s and 80s, that took away the structure and discipline in the gangs and turned it over to the young boys. And the young boys been running it ever since. Have you noticed when the Italian mafia goes to war with each other, the different families, no kids get caught in the crossfire because they have rules for war. You do not kill old women or men, and you don't kill kids. That's a law. If you break that law, your family must kill you. You follow what I'm saying? We don't have no guidelines. It is absolutely ridiculous that all these black kids are getting caught in the crossfire of gang wars and hood wars. That doesn't happen in no other community but ours, and that's because all the OGs are locked up and the young bulls are running crazy. And I'm going to say this, even though people don't like when I say it, the only way we're going to get control of the black community again is for the adult men, you and I, to go to the streets and take control of these young men again. If we don't do it, the black community will never function as a civilized organization. Never. The young black man is out of control. He doesn't answer to nobody but the white male, and we have to change that. The average corner boy is walking around saying to himself, the only person I got to be scared of is the police. That's not good. He should be saying, I don't want to run into him. I don't want to run into him. I don't want to run into Dr. Umar. I don't want to run into the pastor. I don't want to run into no black males because they're going to check my ass if they catch me doing wrong. The only person they scared of is the police. And that's a reflection on us.
That was actually a question that was presented from our elder Malik Aziz. He had asked, so what will be the solution in regards to all these murders and killings going on by these young people?
You got to take them back. But I would also say this. When you take a young man off the corner, you have to be able to replace his income operation with something else. And our problem is we constantly tell them not to sell dope, don't steal cars, don't hustle the weed, don't go to jail. Okay, but I got a baby to feed. Yeah. Not only that, I got child support to pay. If I don't pay that child support, they locking me up. So I understand you, OG. I don't want to sell the dope, but what are you going to put in place of it? That's another weakness of our community. We're the only community in America that does not systematically employ its own. If a Mexican kid needs a job, he can go to the Mexican community. If a Jew needs a job, he can go to the Jewish community. An Italian kid in Philly need a job, they can run right down to South Philly. They gonna get a job somewhere. It might not be the job they want, but they gonna get one. When a black child needs a job, they got to go and beg white people. And then when they come back to the community, we want them to respect us. And their question to that is for what? Respect y'all for what? What are y'all doing for us? Right. The next generation that obligates us to respect y'all. We got to get our children's respect back.
Right.
Let's start with taking care of the kids. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that's a conversation that we had. Like,
but when you say taking care of the kids, it means taking care of all the kids, not just our own.
I mean, all the kids. That's my point. That starts with taking care of the all the kids. We got to take care of all our kids. Yes. How they gonna respect you if they never seen nobody like you? What I mean by that is, you walk in right now, it's 10 brothers on the corner. You walk up, yo, man, get up this corner. You know what I mean? What you mean? Yep. They don't know no old heads like you. Ain't nobody never told them. They old head told them to sell dope. You know what I mean? How you gonna tell them to say dope when they old head the same age you told them to sell dope?
Yes.
Like how their daddy wasn't around. Not because their daddy wasn't locked up, because their daddy just wasn't around.
Yeah.
He chose not to take care of them. Yeah. Their uncles wasn't around. They got a generation. So how do you expect them to listen to you? Of course you think they should. You would, because you have people ahead of you that raised you, but they don't have nobody like that.
They don't. They don't. And another issue is the drug addiction amongst the adults and the elders. Because one of the things that keeps the young boys in place is the fact that their parents, maybe not their parents, but somebody else's parents, is coming to them to cop that crack. They coming for that. You follow what I'm saying? So it's like, ain't nobody never taking me off this corner, because the same adults you saying need to put me in my place need me to fix they habit. I'm the drug boy. They not coming to check me because they need to get high, and I'm the one selling those rocks. So we also have to do something about the drug addiction in the black community, because it is getting out of control. And I'm not talking about addiction of youth, but addiction of adults.
Ooh, can I say this on the topic? Yes. Listen, the heroin epidemic in this country. We all know about the crack epidemic, right? When the crack epidemic came, you got caught with a nickel rock, they gave you 20 years, right? Whether you were smoking it or selling it, right?
That's right.
Nowadays, you got the opiate epidemic that we all know came from pills, but anyway, got the opiate epidemic, which is heroin and fentanyl, right? They selling it, they selling it and they using it. They put them in rehab. You get out of rehab today, go back tomorrow. Yeah. Then on top of that, me and her could be using together. She could die. The law used to be, I killed you, I got to go to jail. Because I know when I was in high school, people I know sold dope, they were scared somebody was going to die, they going to go to jail for life. Nowadays, you sell dope, and I shoot dope with you, and you die. Nowadays, all they do is say, just call 911 and you can go home free.
And the reason for that is because they painted the opioid crisis with a white young face. Yeah. You follow me? Yeah. When they think of opioid addiction, they think of the young 18 to 25-year-old white boy or girl. And as a result of that, they've created a whole new approach to drug use. As you're saying right now, the way they treat opioid addiction and the way they treated the crack epidemic is totally different. Crack epidemic, even if you're not a seller, we catch you with possession with intent to use, not sell, you're going to jail. But we can catch you with opioids that might do far more harm to you than the crack, and you go to the rehab.
Bro, let me say this. I'm telling you, this is facts. This is what I do for a living. I'm giving you facts. Listen. Explain something to you. The worst thing you can do to your body is alcohol, but we're not even going to get into that. That's legal. Next is opiates. Listen, you can literally go to rehab today, stay there for 3 days, say, man, I don't want to be here no more. You can go home. Tomorrow, they'll let you come back. They're going to pay for it. You ain't got no down payment, no copay. It's free. $1,000, hundreds of millions of dollars is going on to this every day, every year, right?
Yeah. But how about...
Go ahead.
Well, not only that, let me say this. For the psychologists, they've made us. Yeah. Now, in order to keep your license, you have to get a certain amount of credits specifically, okay, training in dealing with opioid abuse. They literally changed the regulations on getting your license and keeping it as a result of opioid. They never did that with crack or with any other addiction.
Kensington is the blueprint now for every other major city within the United States. Kensington, around Allegheny, Kensington and Allegheny is the only place throughout all of the major cities that I've been through where being hooked on opioids, dope, and everything else is legal. I mean, we go through there on a regular basis, and they give out syringes. Yeah. You literally have syringes.
It's
everywhere.
like Amsterdam on the Wire. Remember the Wire? They had a joint called Amsterdam, open air drug market.
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, the judge, a federal judge, approved for the city of Philadelphia to have a legal shoot. They call them shooting galleries. Legal shooting gallery. They're gonna put it in Kensington. But outside of that, this isn't the first time we had an opiate epidemic in this country.
No, it's not.
We had an opiate epidemic in this country when he spoke about Bubby Johnson.
Yeah.
That started with the opiate epidemic. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? But it was black people and it was in the hood. And nobody said anything. They was coming through, robbing us and killing us and selling it to our people on purpose. Then you had crack come in. For 20 years, crack was knocking us off. We was going to jail. We was dying and killing each other, right?
Reaganomics.
Yeah.
Then out of nowhere, 15, 20 years later...
Yeah. But you know, they engineered it. The government engineered the opioid epidemic just like they engineered the crack epidemic. Mm-hmm. All the drug epidemics come from the government. Remember, every illegal drug was once legal. Yeah, everything. Yeah. You see. But here's the other point that I wanted to make. One of the reasons they're protecting these young white drug addicts is because right now 25 of America's 50 states have a white population that has a 0% growth rate. In 25 states, more white people are dying than are being born, right? So you have to put that up against the fact that the Latino numbers are climbing. They've kind of held ours constant, but the Latino numbers are climbing and white numbers are declining. Half the states, they're not birthing babies. They're not having them. So they need to save as many young white people as they can in order for them to procreate. Part of the problem with having that recessive DNA that they have is it makes it difficult to repopulate, which is why a lot of white women take fertility drugs. You follow me? Because they can't have the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 babies that the black woman can have. And they make the black woman feel bad about being fertile. When the truth of the matter is they're jealous of your fertility. See, whatever they cannot do, they demonize. And whatever they can do, they glorify. So guess what? We're not good at football. We're not good at basketball. We're going to say because those are monkey sports. You follow? And anything white folks is good for becomes great. And what other black people can do better than white folks is automatically considered irrelevant. And we have to stop taking our values from them, because if black people keep on taking values from white folks, we'll be exterminated.
Exactly. And extermination is definitely their agenda. Even when you think about the birth control and the agenda behind the whole birth control and parenthood, and think about how many, like, doctors are snatching wombs out of women. Let's mention it. Let's mention these surgeries that we're going into not knowing about our own body, or not even knowing and thinking that the doctor has the answers because of the degree, and that we can be safe with them. And some of us are scarred and unable to have children after leaving that surgery bed. A lot of us are being kidnapped. Are we talking about the organs in the black market, about how valuable a black person... What? My heart, my kidney, all like...
Yeah.
And with extermination of us, I would like to touch on homosexuality, because I believe that goes hand in hand. I believe I was watching one of... I was watching one of your speeches, actually, and you said that according to the America's psychology was considered a mental illness until about 1973. So
Correct.
Now, with that being said, and seeing how the society norm is pushing it, especially when they have kindergartners learning about cross-dressing drag queens, and this is what is being taught to kids. What is your take on that?
I believe that as part of the population control war against black people, the government has set upon a campaign to advertise, market, and promote same-gender relationships in the black community, particularly among the males. Because remember, you only need one male to impregnate 20, 30 females. That's how the slave farms were operated. Even though slavery was outlawed in 1808 or 1818, they kept on making slaves by getting one buck, right? And 50 wenches, and that one buck every day had to impregnate a different woman. So that's why they focus so much on the male, because you need so few males to repopulate a nation. You only need one to go around. Whereas with women, you know, a woman can only have a baby at a time. That's 9 months, one a year. But that male can, theoretically, he can impregnate all day long, 24 hours a day. You see, so you got to neutralize the male. And I believe that one of the reasons President Barack Obama was put in office was to do just that, promote same-sex relationships amongst black boys. And he did exactly that. And even now, when you look at the situation with Dwayne Wade's son and everything else, you're looking at the proliferation of this type of a lifestyle. But the government has empowered the LGBTQ plus movement so much that to disagree with it, you risk being called a hater of gays. They call you homophobic. It's the first social movement that I've ever heard of where you can be labeled for disagreeing with it. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution gives you freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and the right to an opinion. But when it comes to LGBTQ, you have no First Amendment rights. You are not allowed to disagree with it. It can cost you your job. It can cost you your reputation. Speaking from experience, I've had countless speaking events that were canceled simply I was supposed to speak at a graduation here in Philadelphia a couple years ago, and some of my detractors who are members of that community contacted the school district, and I spoke at plenty of graduations up until then. And once they went to the newspaper and said this man doesn't support LGBTQ, the school district of Philadelphia forced the high school to uninvite me. It was Martin Luther King High School.
Wow.
Oh, on Staten Avenue.
Yeah.
It's like, can we be hetero proud? Like, I mean, they allowed to be gay, have gay pride, but how come we can't have hetero pride?
Anything that goes against the white supremacy of us embodying us,
Exactly.
like the. Remember that I sent you something via Instagram of a little white girl going off about this post that a loved brother screenshotted, right? Because it was a sister. She posted. I'm sorry. I'm going to touch on this because I've been wanting to for a minute. She said, "I thank God that I'm black, so I don't have to pretend to be." Mm-hmm. I liked it. I screenshot it. I might post it. You feel me? I feel the exact same way. Yeah. But this video that the girl did, she was so offended. How could you? You guys are always crying. You got, and it's just like, it's not. I don't necessarily have to hate you to love me. Exactly. I'm not disliking, nor just to embody and be proud of who I am infuriates them. For me to love my big lips, my curly hair, my curves, my thighs, my weight. And everyone who's listening, sisters, please understand, when you're going to the doctors and you're getting these checkups and they're telling you that you are overweight, no. It is depicted upon the Caucasian woman who is not curvy, voluptuous, who does not have what we have. And it's okay. We are too different. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have thighs. It's okay to have a shape. It's okay to love who you are unapologetically.
Sorry, not sorry.
At all.
Right. Can I speak on that? What you said about the sister that posted that? I think that was a beautiful post. But anyway, I worked with a nurse, a sister who worked together the same job. She posted she took a picture with like 3 or 4 black nurses and said, "Black nurses rock." Posted it.
Dope.
One of the other nurses who were not black got offended and went to the supervisor and said, she posted this post and said, "Black nurses rock." I couldn't have been a supervisor that day because I'd have asked, "Why are you offended? Do you not think black nurses rock?" Like, I'd had to ask. Like, you understand what I'm saying? I would have had to ask because who was you to tell somebody what they can put on their social media? Right. It wasn't anything negative. It was all positivity, in my opinion. But you offended that somebody put on their page a picture of 4 black nurses that black nurses rock. That was the hashtag. So do you think they don't? Because then you got a problem within yourself.
That's right.
But that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah.
It really comes down to the fact that the insecurity issue, especially what you just mentioned, is that not only does it deal with what we do have as enhancements and advantages, but it also pertains to the fact that we are the dominant gene.
Absolutely.
So that type of survival, you know, they're fighting for survival.
And black people need to understand, white people can never accept integration because it will lead to biological extermination. Now, let me say that one more time. White people would be ridiculous to accept integration with Africans because it will lead to their extermination. Their genotype would be wiped out just through the amalgamation of the two. And I try to get black people to understand this. We don't know why God created the white man. We don't know. I'd like to find out, but we don't know. In order for him to protect himself, he must keep space between us and him. So in looking out for himself, you have to respect the fact that he wants to be alone, needs to be alone, and must be alone in order to survive. But because of black people's low self-esteem that the white man put in us, we cannot let him be. Wherever he lives, we want to live with him. Well, you know, he has a daughter, we want to marry his daughter. We want to be white so bad, failing to realize he can't let you be, because if he let you in, it will lead to his end. Integration is suicide for white people, and we need to accept it and leave those people alone.
You have to understand this.
Yes,
we also have to close out on this final point as well.
Me? Okay. So I just wanted to touch on Black Wall Street and your West African project.
Yes. The West African project, I was gifted 50 acres of land in Ghana, not far from the airport. And I plan to, as soon as we have the school up and running in Delaware, I want to continue the fundraiser and break ground on a school in Africa. So ultimately, we will have a school in Ghana and one in Delaware, which will allow our children, if their parents want to, send them to Ghana to learn. And our African kids could come to Delaware to learn. And part of our curriculum will be an exchange program where the African-American boys will go to Ghana a couple weeks out the year, and the Ghanaian Africans will come to Delaware a couple of weeks out of the year. So we plan to have multiple campuses.
I think that is amazing. One more time, can you please let everyone know where to send them donations to?
Yes. Please make sure y'all donate to the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. You can also donate on the Cash App at $FDMG School. I repeat, $FDMG School. If you need to reach me, 215-989-9858. That's 215-989-9858. And don't forget, we have the National Black Parent Know Your School Rights Training Tour. The Pennsylvania training will be in Pittsburgh on Saturday, June the 6th. You can register on the website, but the next training will be in White Plains, New York, February the 29th, Newark, New Jersey, March the 1st, Long Beach, California, March the 7th, Oklahoma City, March the 21st, Charlotte, North Carolina, March the 28th. Get your tickets at drumarjohnson.com. Come to learn all you need to learn to protect your children from the psychoacademic Holocaust.
Amazing.
You just listened to Dr. Umar on NR International. This is TicketsToTheStreetsTV.com. You're rocking with the best Philly's finest, Mr. Nick Rain, Nawll, Rainey, and
Flawless Flaw. Peace, love.
Peace and love.
Salute to all.
Right.